Keep up with them. So when somebody comes to me with a mental challenge, I believe that, first off, it is never, ever, ever my place. Listen to me, the federal government. It is never my place to tell somebody to stop taking medication. I don't do that. I might tell them what I would do or want to do if it were me, but I never tell them, to stop doing that. We also know that there are nutritional imbalances that will cause, or nutritional deficiencies and also toxicities that can lead to or exacerbate mental illness. Or, some of the more common things are stress. Stress can cause, an increase in mental illness. And so I would encourage them to do the things that I would tell somebody who's got high blood pressure or heart disease. The same steps are normally there. In order to really get the body back to where it needs to be, you have to properly nourish it, you have to properly hydrate it, you have to properly rest it, and you have to get the toxins out of your body. And once you get to that point, you're going to see that as you go back to your mental health practitioner, that your need is going to deteriorate or depreciate. You're not going to need as much. You're not going to need as much. You're not going to find yourself having as many episodes, because when you put the body back at its nutritionally peak level, all of these things work themselves out. Not always, but at least they have a better chance of working themselves out. So I don't push anybody away from the medications. I just push them towards better nutrition, and there are certain foods that will contribute to better throughput as far as brain throughput, and it will increase the flow of blood. It'll increase the flow of energy back and forth in the brain. And that's kind of where I leave it. I don't go any further. I don't go outside of my lane. I stay in my lane. Then I give it to my brother right here.
Well, I don't encourage people not to take medication. I will be honest. There are those who require medication. You can actually tell the difference when they're not on the medication. I always encourage individuals, the education is the most valuable thing that you will have to learn if you are taking medication. I agree that you have to watch your diet. You have to watch what you take in, because a lot of the food that we consume is not healthy. It's quick, it's fast, it's easy, and we could just order it and go. But with the medication, there comes so many side effects, and it causes so many, the things are pretty much exacerbated by what you eat, what you do, if you're not getting enough rest. Most medications can be high in a dosage, but if you are doing a proper diet, if you're exercising, things of that nature, perhaps you won't have to take as much. But it's about bringing the body into alignment. Even if there's a chemical imbalance, that imbalance is there for a reason. But it's hopeful that when you're taking the medication, along with some type of psychotherapy, along with you talking to someone, along with you making a plan of action, hopefully you won't require as much as you're currently taking. There are some individuals who take at least, by 8 a.m. they didn't have 500 milligrams of something. And then before they go to bed, they have to get 500 more. So you have individuals who are walking around as zombies, and all they're doing is being medicated. And all day long, they're not able to fend for themselves. So in my profession, that would be a problem for me, because I'm representing them and I'm looking out for the best interest of them. They're right. If a person is that they don't know who they are, what the date is, what time it is, the month and the year, we have an issue. And in most cases in institutions, that's what's happening. You're just housing a person, you're medicating them. And what happens is when they go back to their environment, they can't function. So where do they come? Right back to where they've been. And their equilibrium is up. Everything is just haywire. You got to get them back to a level of a therapeutic range. And in most cases, that's just applying more medication. And you're not really dealing with the underlying issue. They still are diagnosed with that issue. And you have to get that person to a regimen that will assist them. Because at the end of the day, they're more than what the diagnosis is. But they have to be willing to work along with their treatment team, work along with the nutritionists. You have to be able to set aside like what you can eat, what you can't eat. I will say that hydrating your body is the most important thing. I've come across a lot of patients where they don't drink. I don't like the taste of it. So they have to have some type of substitute in it. But at the same time, your body will shut down. Your kidneys will shut down. So the medication is important, but the diet, exercise is important as well. And in the African American community, we are famous for grabbing something quick to eat. And knowing that we have other issues, high blood pressure, cholesterol, but we still want that food because it's good to us. Like I ate here today. The food was great. It was different. But I remember you saying it's healthy, it's clean. So it depends on what you're consuming, but the medication is very important too.
So as we transition into the next phase of this conversation, and for those of you who are in the audience, if you have questions, please write it down so that you don't forget, because this is interactive. And so I want you to ask questions, open up, and discuss different issues. But a lot of times in the mental health profession, what we're dealing with are unresolved issues. And that's whether you're male or female. We're dealing with unresolved issues that people don't address. And so you go through years trying to process things that may have happened to you in your younger years, things that could have happened to you in your older years, a traumatic experience that just kind of altered you as a person. And because you never, dealt with those issues, now you are emotionally imbalanced. So, Reverend Washington, how does the emotional aspect of a man affect him first when he's not dealing with issues that have affected him or plagued his life? And how does it affect his family?
First of all, I want to say thank you, Doc, for this platform and being up here with these tremendous giants, Dr. Ruth and our brothers here. At the end of the day, it's about achieving a level of balance, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and spiritually, because we're more spirit than we are anything else. And in any particular environment or community or situation, if you are too extreme on anything, your body, your state of being, your humanity is taken out of balance. Too much water can kill you. Too much sugar can shut you down. Not a healthy sleep pattern can cause you to fall into a state of psychosis. A lot of things that are unresolved in our particular community, especially in dealing with black men, are brought on not only by external forces, but also spiritual dynamics that have been handed down historically. For instance, if my grandfather did or had a particular behavior pattern that was dysfunctional, and then my dad had it, it was dysfunctional. Somewhere along the line, we functionalized the dysfunction. Sure. And we told ourselves the lie that it's okay, to deal with that. And we normalize it, right? And then once you normalize a particular behavior pattern, it becomes systemic. In your house, in your community, in your church, on your job, and it attacks you from being productive. So I can't provide for my family if I'm sick all the time and I can't make it to work. If I can't make it to work because I can't provide for my family, it now attacks my finances. And if my finances are attacked, now my self-purpose is being attacked. I'm not feeling like I'm the man, the provider, and the protector. And then I'm left open and vulnerable at some point. And it pushes me to a place of isolation. And while I do believe in spiritual realities, I do believe in my faith tradition in the manifestation of God and the embodiment of Christ. By the way, since we're dealing with African Americans, we got to know that Jesus wasn't African. that is an indigenous religious expression that happened on the major continent before they divided it up and separated us. And so we have to take into consideration that if I'm having an issue, that at some point I have to address the man in the mirror. In all thy ways, we got to get to know who we are. And that takes a revelation and an illumination that you must go and ask someone that's bigger than you. This is bigger than me. If I'm going to stop the cycle of dysfunctionalism in my family and in my community, it has to stop with me. And then once I stop it and identify it, I have to replace it with something better. And so whatever a brother or a sister's religious tradition is, I believe you must always engage in the eternal for direction and for a path to stabilize us and to normalize that which is healthy for us and our humanity. And in doing so, I not only recognize the humanity in me, I recognize the humanity in others. And so now I see value and worth, and that impacts my self-esteem. And now I have a reason to not only want to do better, but become better. And in that becoming better, then I need to better myself, right? And so I need to now put good things into me, not only from a nutritional perspective, not only from a mental and emotional perspective, but I can't leave the spiritual perspective out. I've had friends who have found themselves somehow accidentally or on purpose being addicted to one particular substance or another. And they've gone through programs after program, and they learn the language of those programs, and so they can hide the impact of their relapses. But the one thing that is missing in the program, it had no spiritual connection. And when I saw some of my friends get connected spiritually, their process was then enhanced because they knew the practical principles and steps to apply, while at the same time having spiritual balance and getting in touch with God, which helps them to get in contact and in touch with themselves. And so at the end of the day, we have to always recognize that we are codependent on something that's greater than ourselves, and that we have to recognize that, and that we have to stay constantly connected to the spirit man. Because if you feed the spirit man and he's healthy and whole, the physical man will become healthy and whole. The mental man will become healthy and whole. And I say that it is a journey and not a destination. It's a journey, and sometimes that journey is 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 month at a time, 1 year at a time. It's not a place where you could say, oh, I've reached that place. It's a place where you can say, oh, I'm getting better every day. Because I believe where I am is not ultimately where my Creator, my God, would have me to be, because the best is still yet to come.
What happens when a man is emotionally disconnected? Not only from people around him, but emotionally disconnected from himself, which means that he's cut himself off from his pain.
Wow, that's a real good question. My brother said it in one word. It is a self-destructive. When you become isolated, isolation also comes with paranoia. Paranoia comes with a disconnected from your family and your community. You begin to implode, right? So that means you collapse inside first, and it gets dark. A lot of what I believe, and I said this prior on our show, that some of us suffer from urban post-traumatic stress disorder. We're socially, politically, economically, we've been isolated, and haven't been given access to resources that recognize to help bring us out. And so we have to have guiding lights to come down dark paths, to advocate for us and to say it's okay. And while it's dark in your place, you're not by yourself. You're not. We're here. And in all things, that's where you have to trust in something, again, greater than yourself. The Word of God simply states that he said it, that I would never leave you nor forsake you. In Proverbs, David, in a dark place, said that even God, the darkness is light in your eyes. So even when I don't know where I am, you know where I am. You know the way that I take. You are concerned about me, even when I can't feel that nobody else cares. And so we have to get connected and attached and reconnected to our community. Because when a man gets disconnected, it creates dysfunctionalism. His children, especially if you have sons, they suffer identity crisis. His daughter suffers an identity crisis. They're looking for daddy. You have little boys who grow up into grown men still with little boy issues. Young ladies who are looking, as he said, for love of a father in dysfunctional relationships. And then we put the whole weight of that on our women who have to be both husband, dad, and mother and wife. And so it takes a man to have to deal with the man in the mirror first. And no hole is too deep, no place is too dark where God can't search and recover you from. The key is, do you want to be saved? And more importantly, saved from yourself. And when we can answer that question genuinely and authentically, that is the beginning of, I believe, a healthy and holistic approach to recovery.
And so, if I'm correct, what I hear you saying is that the man has to come to a place of awareness. Okay. And so, for that place of awareness, Mr. Berry, what does that process look like for a man? Taking into consideration all of the different aspects of a man. And for everybody, it's not just men. When we have different hurts, pains, issues, we're going to find comfort in something. So some men turn to drugs, some men turn to porn, some men turn to overeating. Whatever that comfort place is for that man, how does what happens in that place of awareness where they begin to say, oh my God, I'm in this dark place, now I need to come into a place of light. But, and this is a two-part question, when they get to that place of awareness, now they realize that everything around them has fallen apart. How do you repair that?
The first thing that I would like to address is the fact of awareness. Awareness is key in behavioral dysfunction, because if you're not aware that you're behaving in a dysfunctional manner, you will never seek any type of way of healing or processing any type of program or doing the things that you need to do to deal with the unresolved issues, the underlying issues. And it's almost like it was stated across the table. Every person spoke on good terms about good things, but this is key where you are now. Without the awareness of what your underlying issues are, you're going to always be stuck in a place where you can never get to any of the good things that you heard on the panel so far. And it takes a moment of clarity. You have to have clarity to enable yourself to understand that you have issues that needs to be dealt with. And once you reach that level of clarity, that's where the work begins. You have to be able to understand that there's work that needs to be done, and you have to have the courage. You have to have courage because of what you're going to find inside of you. It was mentioned earlier on the panel that you have to know you. And the only way you're going to know you is to be honest with you. And a lot of black men, and I hate to say this, but it's the truth because it must be said, they're not going to be happy when they see who they really are because of behavioral issues, who you hurt in your family, who you may have walked away from in your family, when you walked away from your family structure as the man in the household. And if you get that moment of clarity and the pain that hits you from the mistakes that you made, you have to be honest with yourself and accept responsibility for the mistakes that you made. And then there's a healing process. You have to rebuild relationships first and foremost. And once you start rebuilding relationships, how good are you going to be as the person that you should be to even step back into that relationship? So that takes work. You have to work with yourself. When you have that